True or false? Any person can learn sign language and become an interpreter. Raise your hand if you say true, and raise your hand if you say false. Okay, so it's about half and half. Now, a student can learn sign language, but they don't get involved with the community. They don't dive into the language, whereas in interpreting, you go through a process of learning the language and analyzing and researching a language in itself, which includes culture as well. Whereas as a student, you learn the language, it's fun, it's not towards a profession, whereas in interpreting, it's a process. There should be a interpreter preparation program to go through to become an interpreter. So it is not for everybody. A person that wears a hearing aid, they can speak and hear well. True or false? So it's about six say true, a couple say false, some people still thinking about it. It's not always. And it's not always that clear. I'm going to give you some examples, and I'm going to categorize three different groups. Okay, so the three basic groups that I'm categorizing are deaf, um, then there is hard of hearing, as well as less than deaf. That's a new term. Now, in the deaf group, they can come from a residential school, they use ASL, they are definitely part of a culture. different causes of the deaf group to become deaf would be some type of sickness like rubella, or the some kind of infection in their ear. Now, hard of hearing is a little bit more complex group because it's almost like they're half in in the deaf category, and they're half in the less than deaf category. And you'll see, they'll be wearing a hearing aid, they'll be signing, but then they also want to hear. So you can see them really go between different groups. And again, with the language that they use, it's half and half. They can use ASL and they can use English. So it's really both. Now, the causes of them becoming deaf or losing their hearing, it'd be the same thing. They can get some kind of sickness, or they can lose their hearing when they are growing up at age of about 1 or 2. Now, the less deaf group, their causes can be usually later on in life. They know English, they have lived in the world where there's hearing people, and they can hear everything. They have access to communication. But it's usually something happens to them in their life where they lose their hearing, and it's unexpected, and a lot of times it can be a bad experience. And when they're deaf or hard of hearing and they lose hearing at a young age, or they're born that way, that's just what they know. And really, in the less deaf category, the bad experience does influence the pros and cons of losing their hearing. Now, in the deaf category, the deaf group, people would, in their houses, they set up devices such as a TTY or some type of alarm when someone's knocking on the door. In the hard of hearing group, some would use those devices, and someone would lean to the less deaf side, where they don't want to use any devices. They want to try to use their hearing, see if they could possibly hear someone knock on the door. And you can see, as with the less deaf group, they are more uh, opposed to using such devices to aid them in everyday life.